Hey everybody, how's it going? Computer acting a little bit slow today. You know me, if it involves me, it involves a computer doing something funky. So we are now here with a brand new friend of the program, Cheryl Okoli. How are you doing, sweetie?
I am well, thank you. And thank you for
Like,
inviting me.
yeah, not a problem. Like a lot of the people that we've been talking to lately, you have quite a bit going on, and mm, pretty much everything is enabling people to continue to work by allowing them the assistance and the rest and relaxation, because burnout is terrible in when it comes to programs, right? And I know that you have a heavy focus on our heroes, first responders, veterans, stuff like that we're going to be talking about. But you have so much going on inside the states and for European programs as well, right?
Well, when you say inside the States and European program, I just want to clarify something. So, technically, I am Canadian, just for
Yep.
the record. So, most of my programs are within Canada, just for the
Okay.
record. So, when I hear things like programs within the States and outside, in the sense of, for example, let's talk about Renata Wellness and Recreation Retreat, for instance. Okay. So this is a service that I provide for those in the healthcare industry primarily, regardless of roles. And yes, first responders fall into that. And the whole intent is to tackle burnout. However, because I'm Canadian and I'm a Albertan, it is registered in Alberta, Canada. However, I'm very open to partnering with organizations internationally that would like to provide a venue where we can run this retreat as a destination retreat. So I just wanted to clarify that for all it's worth. Okay. So it's basically the model is such that it's a place of rejuvenation, recalibration, a place where people can come and rest, lots of recreation, but they also have some light learning. Why? Because I want to equip them with tools so they can go back to their workplaces, back to their families to be positive change agents as well. So some of those programs could be anything like conflict resolution, counseling, something called nighttime dream counseling, and dance, and lots of recreation that's tailored to the venue of choice. So I hope I answered that question for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you a question about this retreat. One of the reasons why you're doing the classes is because what good does it do you to go to a class, get relaxed, and then go back to a place and immediately start feeling that burnout again? You're allowing them to be able to take and manage that burnout a little bit better when they go back, right?
That's correct. So, like I said, to equip them to be positive change agents. So, let's say, for example, okay, let's talk about burnout because it's really important people know what burnout is. So, there's a group of authors that describe burnout as, and as I'm talking, I want you to assess yourself or someone that you know in very loose terms. If you find yourself to be more exhausted than normal, more cynical than normal, and you find that your work output has decreased, perhaps you might be burning out. And the key is burnout is recognized in normal individuals. So it's usually not in people with a pre existing, maybe mental health condition, but in normal people who are finding themselves to be more exhausted than normal, more cynical than usual, and again, find decreased work efficacy. Okay. So by number one, it's important that they identify what burnout is. Okay. Two, make proactive measures to address it from a holistic perspective. And when I use the word holistic, for me, holism means looking after your physical, mental, social, cultural, and spiritual domain. You need all of those three areas to be harmonized, okay, for a human being to be functioning appropriately. Okay. So with Renata Wellness and Recreation Retreats, the idea is for healing to begin in a picturesque environment, away from everything that they're used to. Yes, there'll be lots of rest, lots of good food, lots of recreation, but equipping them with some tools, like, for example, conflict resolution, for instance. Okay. Conflict resolution is not just about interpersonal. relationships. It could be about your processes, your systems, your tasks as well. It could be your values. That's a big thing, right? And when we talk about conflict, people think about external. It could also be within. Sometimes we have conflict within ourselves, right? It
Yep.
could be moral duress and all that. Okay. And then also an organization development class of some sort. So that could be anything like maybe strategic management for, let's say, business owners or aspiring business owners or administrators or educators. Or it could be something on financial management for in terms of for you as an individual, you as an employee, you as an executive, for example. Okay. So yeah, so it's important to get away from the environment, because you might have heard this or not, but it's very difficult to heal in an environment where you have, maybe you're burning out, or maybe where you've experienced bullying and harassment. You need to get away from that environment for your healing journey, again, your holistic journey to begin. So that in a nutshell is the premise of Renata Wellness and Recreation Retreat. And I invite everyone to visit my website to learn more about the strategic direction in terms of its mission, vision, and goals. And most importantly, look at our history so you can understand why it came about in the first place.
This is really aimed towards people who are in high stress environments. Please don't get me wrong here. Every organization has a level of stress that is higher stress, but you are really aimed at people who literally hold lives in their hands, um, and are trying to help them manage a level of stress that, uh, thank God, most of us don't have to deal with every day. But these are people that, if something happens, it could cost lives. What got you into
Mhm.
this this area? What made you start to think, hey, you know what? These people need help, and we need to make sure that we find the help they need.
Sure. So I have a healthcare background of 20 years. So I go by Dr. Cheryl Okoli, DHA. DHA stands for Doctorate in Health Administration. So in my, well, I'll say maybe about the 13-year mark in my career, excuse me, I started thinking to myself, and this was more so this would have been in 2016 that there's thoughts of having a retreat for those in the healthcare industry. And before I continue, I just want to make it clear though, I'm not just talking about those at the front lines, okay? You could be in the healthcare industry, or you can be in academia, you could be in research, you could be in management, director, or C-levels, really doesn't matter. You could be a first responder. And also, let's not forget the non-professional caregivers as well. And what I mean by that, it could be someone taking care of their parent or their young ones, or someone who has special needs, a family member. They too are at risk, right? So going back to your question, so around the 2016 mark was when I was in a leadership role. And I started thinking about, oh my goodness, I see healthcare professionals, regardless again of setting and hierarchy, and they're really burning out. I myself too, at some point, I said, feeling, oh my, what's going on here? But thinking about burnout again, let me pause there for a second to mention burnout can be multifaceted. And what I mean by that is burnout related to occupational issues, and there could be burnout related to what's happening in your life as a whole. It could be from the social, family, external to your work, okay? So at that point in time, not many people know this actually, but around the 2016 mark, when I mentioned that, in 2015, I'd had a car accident actually. And it could have been much, much worse. It was bad. I had about, I think it was second or third degree whiplash. It was almost like doing the Macarena, like my head, my neck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not many people realized it was serious because I wasn't on crutches. I didn't have a broken cast or anything. No one took it seriously. But naturally, when you're going through something like that, and also I'm very tall. Not many people know this too. I'm like 5'10" and 3/4. By the time I wear heels, I'm over 6. The reason why I mentioned that is crucial. People who are tall, and when they have certain injuries, be it soft tissue injuries, their healing takes much longer for soft tissue repairs. So again, so here I am trying to do my work, juggle my work. I needed proper economic equipment. At the time, I didn't have it. Again, I'm tall, right? So the basic workbenches, stations for some of my heights and for normal people wasn't the same. So for me, trying to advocate for that, it was really a battle. Trying to recover from my illness, trying to juggle work, I really was beginning to burn out. I still love my job. I still love the
Mm-hmm.
people I was serving. But all those external factors combined with everything made me start burning out. But I'm not one to throw in the towel. Okay. So I started thinking to myself, you know what? Between what happened in 2015, now in 2016, I started thinking, and at that point in time, I was pursuing my doctorate as well. I looked at my life. I looked at the life of other people from an occupational and from a social. And I started saying, you know what? I would so like to be part of a venture or advocate for a venture whereby we can have a picturesque setting, picturesque physical setting, where those in the healthcare industry can get away from everything and just rest and be loved on, TLC. They're forever pouring out into others. And don't get me wrong, like you said, I don't want to be biased. Lots of industries pour out into people. But like you
Yeah.
said, it's a matter of life and death when it comes to the healthcare industry, right? You can't take certain things lightly. I wanted a place where they could get away, rejuvenate, recalibrate. And when I use the word recalibrate, that's a proprietary mnemonic of mine as well. It didn't start off as being a proprietary mnemonic, but I invite everyone, when you get a chance, visit my website, www.renata.k. At the very top, it says free gifts. And there you can click on it and you can see what the recalibrate stands for. It's a step by step. Each letter stands for what you can do to recalibrate holistically. Yes, that's the one. And just click on the download button and to pull it up for you. So I said, so in 2016, I'll say the idea was conceived to have this picturesque, beautiful place. But it wasn't just going to be a place where they can just recalibrate and rejuvenate, have good food, but also light learning. Why? When, again, like I said about burnout, could be occupational or multifaceted. Okay. One is occupational burnout, which means basically burnout happening because of what's happening in the workplace. So another thing for me was at that point in time in that role, as much as I'm grateful and honored to have been in that role, there were two of us in that role, and I took care of the northern part of Calgary. My colleague took care of the southern part of Calgary. That's a lot on one person. But again, I'm very good at managing my time. But between that and everything else happening, it was a lot. Okay. So back to the retreat, I want them to have a place where that they can again recalibrate, but also have light learning on things like conflict resolution, because conflict is not necessarily bad. Did you know that? People
Yeah.
hear conflict and they just cringe. No, there is constructive and then there is destructive. And it's not just about interpersonal. It could also be value related conflict. It could be the processes. It could be tasks. It could be systems. And when I'm using the word systems, not so much in the IT system world, but more like macro systems, like the healthcare system from a population lens, from a departmental lens, from a geographical lens, etc. Right? So they have some light learning on things like conflict resolution. They have a group counseling, because some of these individuals, not only are they burning out, they might have been recipients of bullying and harassment. And again, sadly for me, I was a recipient of that at the workplace. So lots of things were just happening all at once. Okay. So I'll pause there to explain anything else if you want me to, if you have any specific questions, but I think I'll pause there for now.
Right now, I just want to, you've got recalibrate broken down as recalibrate. Why are you doing what you're doing? Who do you need to focus on first? Educate
Sure.
yourself on the above. Celebrate what you have accomplished. Assess assess holistically, physically, mentally, socially, culturally, spiritually domains. Liberate negative thinking patterns. Inquire and get ideas from others. Believe in yourself, so important. Relinquish control of what you cannot. Accept that you are only human, another very important one. Trust the process and enthusiasm is the way forward. How did you come up with that?
Very good question. I've been blessed by God Almighty. I'm a Christ follower. He's given me many gifts. One of the things is the knack for words. I could just sit here and think, you know what, I want to come across a message to give people, but I want something tangible they can take away. And I just sit there, and within less than minutes, sometimes something will just come up. So I was like, Renata Wellness and Recreation, a place of rejuvenation, a place of recalibration. So how did I come up with that? People always talk about R&R, but for me, I was like, first, I think what's more vital is for you to recalibrate and then rest. Hey, it's open for discussion or debate. But by recalibrating, so going back to your question, I was like, how can they recalibrate? And I was like, you know what? I just sat there one day, brought out my pen and paper. I was like, okay, recalibrate. What could the R stand for? I was like, well, you want to recalibrate, but what does that mean? Asking yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Again, recalibrate can apply to your workplace setting. It could be in your family life. It could be those who are retired. It doesn't matter. Anyone can recalibrate. Okay. So the R is, why am I doing what I'm not? Why am I doing what I'm not doing? What should I focus on? What's my priorities? So that's pretty much how I came up with it. I just said I want something tangible people can take away to literally recalibrate. It's not just a matter of you're going there and sitting somewhere and smelling the roses. That's good. But how do you make that time useful and beneficial that when you come away from a retreat, you're like, you know what, I have some direction of some sort. It may not be all the pieces, but you have some direction. And most importantly, hopefully you've rested physically and mentally as well.
Well, and when you rest, when you're rested, when you take and you can look at all of those things, and you can look at them at a more, uh, you know, at ease feeling, and
Mhm.
it's probably easier for you to take and break each and every one of them down. If you look at those in a stressed situation before you go to, to rejuvenate yourself, to recalibrate yourself, if you will. If you look at them beforehand, you're going to be looking at that, and it's going to seem, intimidating. So recalibrating and then looking at that, it's going to seem like it's something very easy to do. Your second website is ShalomEaglesWings.care. Can you tell us a little bit about this? And this will go into your book as well.
Sure, sure. Okay, Shalom Eagles Wings. Okay, so that is my business, Shalom Eagles Wings, and each word of my business name is a play on words. Shalom, most of us know it to mean peace. I know I'm not Jewish, but I like to say my Lord and Savior was Jewish. But shalom, beyond meaning peace, also means wholeness and wellness. Okay. The eagles part of things has to do with the fact that I consider myself to be a visionary and rise above storms. I'm pretty resilient and I'm very strategic. And then the wings is the empowerment component rather of it. So Shalom Eagles Wings is all about consultation, advocacy, and empowerment. So what do I do there? So there are two arms to it. There's a clinical arm and an administrative arm. So on the administrative arm, let me just start by sharing a little bit of my background real quickly so you understand. So I have over 20 years of healthcare experience. My foundation is that of a registered nurse. I have a doctorate in health administration, which is non-nursing related. So that's why my passion for influencing changes at the population, national, and global level. Okay. So with Shalom Eagles Wings, from the administrative lens, I provide strategic management to executive administrators, business owners in their strategic management of the organizations, looking at five main pillars: leadership, workforce development, the organization culture and climate, forging partnerships, and last but not least, financial practices. Remember, I said shalom, most people know it to mean peace, but it's also wholeness. I'm also a conflict resolution coach. That is one of my biggest passions, helping people optimize their organizations through effective conflict resolution. I'm also a certified hybrid coach with the CIAN. It's a basically Canadian International Applied Negotiations Institution. Now, Under, you talked about, I'll talk to you about my book shortly, but on the clinical arms of Shalom Eagle's Wings, I'm passionate about women who are high risk for uterine fibroids. And when I use the word high risk and symptomatic, 1 in 4 women, 1 in 4 live with uterine fibroids. To bring that in perspective, if you were in a room with 100 women, about 25 of them would have uterine fibroids. But it doesn't mean they'll be symptomatic. Okay, so that's an important thing to differentiate between that. So I'm passionate about raising public awareness about uterine fibroids, partnering with organizations like in the medical field, medical clinics who want to ensure and implement early screening for women who are high risk. And when I talk about high risk, it could be they have a family history and so forth, and genetic predisposition for uterine fibroids. So I also provide workshops and one-on-one consultation. I offer those to women at large as well. So that's one clinical arm that I'm passionate about. Now I have added adults and senior consultation as well on the clinical arm for Shalom Eagle's Wings as well. Now you mentioned my book. So yes, so I mentioned conflict resolution is something I'm very passionate about. I've been sadly the recipient of destructive conflict. And what do I describe destructive conflict as? Again, as opposed to constructive. Destructive is basically when it tears down relationships, when it tears down processes, where there is sometimes in the healthcare industry, worst case scenario, death. So when I talk about destructive, I said to myself, you know what? People need to be educated that conflict's not necessarily bad. There's a constructive and a destructive side. I spent 10 years of my career in the operating room. And when I was pursuing my master's degree, I promised myself if I ever got a chance to empower people at large to deal with conflict effectively, I'll do something about it. So my capstone project ended up being on conflict resolution in the operating room, empowering new employees and the staff, veteran staff, to deal with conflicts. And it's interesting that the one thing that cost me lots of tears, I won an award. Unbeknownst to me, I submitted an article. I didn't know there was an award associated with it. And I was blessed to be the recipient of this award. So I decided to write my book, publish it. And yeah, it's available on Amazon. And what you should is available on Mark Book Shop as well. But one thing I should mention though, don't be deceived by the title. People outside of the healthcare industry have read my book and seen value in it. So the principles are the same. You just have to be astute and wise to apply it to your work setting or your society and community. Yeah. Oh, yes. One thing I should mention, if you buy from me directly, I can personalize it for you. And 10% of the proceedings go to a local charity called Hope Mission. And again, I'm in Alberta, Canada.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I got a question for you. Why, Doc, is it that women fall? I don't want to say fall victim, but fall into a more dangerous category. And then if you throw in African American to that generalization, women, they're even higher risk. Why are women and African American individuals, why do they fall into higher risk whenever anything comes out? What is it about the makeup of women and African Americans that put your lives and your health in more danger?
That's a very good question, very sensitive and could be controversial. But I'm going to answer that question from anecdotal experiences, lived experiences, and from a research perspective, if that's okay. So from anecdotal experiences, and you use the word African American. So just for the records, that's from an American lens. In Canada, we won't use African American because we're not Americans. But
Right.
nevertheless, you're talking about chocolate-hued people as a whole. I love the term chocolate-hued. That's me. Anyway, so part of it has to do with the fact that from anecdotal experiences, some people say it has to do with racism. And it's very interesting that some people don't know that racism can have physiological effects on a human being.
Mm-hmm.
There is a screening tool I highly recommend people look it up. One of them was from Harvard. It's called Unrest in capital letters. Okay, look it up. Regardless of industry, use it to screen not just women that are chocolate hued, it could be men too. And it will help you recognize individuals that are high risk for health issues, either from a social perspective or from a physical perspective due to racism. So that's one big umbrella term as to why their health might be affected. So, for example, when you are subjected to microaggressions, and what do I mean by that? It could be racial slurs, either overt or they could be covert. Covert could be, for example, oh, where are you from? So let me use the example of me being Canadian. Actually, I was born in Canada, just wasn't raised in Canada. And people, number one, look at me, chocolate hued. They listen to my accent because I'm a global citizen, grew up on 3 different continents. I have a very interesting accent. So when I say things like, oh, I'm from Winnipeg, they're like, no, where are you really from? So right there, they don't realize some might deem that a microaggression. You've asked me a question, I answered you because you didn't like or accept my answer, you're digging and prying. Maybe what you intended to ask was, what's your ethnicity? Which is different, very different. Ethnicity has to do with maybe your culture and traditions. Race is a social construct. It's what people put you in a box, actually, is what race is. So there's difference between racial and ethnic backgrounds, okay? So maybe what they might wanted to have asked was, what's your ethnic background? And this is educational, okay?
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's one. So to answer your question, so there could be racism involved in it, affecting their healthcare. It's a well-known fact that in the States specifically, sadly, maternity health for women. And from what I've read, it has to do with they have a lack of trust of the system because of how they'll be treated and perceived, which makes them delay seeking early treatment. So it'd be prenatal treatment, it could be during pregnancy, or it could be postpartum. So this distrust sadly leads them to not seeking healthcare. And when I say distrust, could be stemming from the fact of what they've heard happen to their colleagues or their family members. They're like, I'm not putting myself in that situation. Okay. Now, so that's one aspect. Now, tying it into burnout. So, very good question. Well, you didn't use the word burnout, but as in the health, right? So, those of African origin, chocolate hued, Caribbean backgrounds, however you want to define it. I love chocolate hued personally, and I say that with joy. They do have a higher predisposition for being hypertensive. So when you're under lots of stress, be it stress related to racism or being due to discrimination. So let's say, for example, you're not promoted when you have the education background, but you're not promoted because of the color of your skin or due to the threat or jealousy, whatever it is, that creates stress. And when there's stress, you have cortisol shoot up in your body, and that doesn't help you, right? So that can impact your stress. And believe it or not, there are some tumors that can be caused by heightened stress levels. Again, yeah. So all that can impact a woman's that's chocolate hue, can impact your health adversely, not just physiologically, but mentally, socially, culturally, and spiritually. So that's the way I can answer that, if that helps.
Are are women who are mothers, are they at higher risk than even women who are single and uh, you know, do not have that responsibility of being a mother?
Not necessarily. I mean, I can't speak to what the researchers say, but there's one thing general researchers say, for instance, when you say women who are mothers, we have to classify them into 2 different categories. Are they single mothers or are they mothers with a partner? So if
Right.
they're single mothers, higher risk because they lack the social support to take care of the child, and other things that might be going on. Not to say there are single mothers who are heroines out there. Don't get me wrong, but research shows that those who are in a relationship, married relationship specifically, have better social supports, and that helps their health better. Okay. Now, in terms of singlehood, now, you know, it depends. Some people are of the opinion, and I think they're misconstrued in the fact that because you're single, you don't have responsibilities of a family, of a child, it's easier for you. But no, think of it in a different way. You have everything on your shoulders. You're
Mm-hmm.
responsible for working, you're responsible for paying those bills, you're responsible for taking care of things in the house, and so forth. It's an extra load. Yes, you may not have that extra responsibility of looking after a younger one, but what about when you're in the sandwich generation? When you have to take care of your parents. Sandwich generation means taking care of maybe parents or taking care of younger ones. So there are single women, again, when maybe they're not married, people think, oh, they have less responsibility. They should take care of their older parents. They will be at risk for burnout as well. So people don't really see that. So no, so it all depends on what demographic you're looking at, their geographical location, and their social support, and yeah, their physical and physiological disposition as well.
Yeah. I I greatly appreciate you navigating and answering that question. It's I know that there's a huge difference, and I do apologize for using America all the time. It's accustomed to is this is where I live, and it's I guess it's just habit, but I do apologize for that. So, what Doc, if you were going to look at someone and someone was going to come to you and say, I'm stressed, I just need a break. Doc, what's the first thing you tell them to do?
Okay. Before I answered that, first and foremost, there was no need for an apology. Thank you, but it wasn't needed. It's all good. Okay. Now, someone that is stressed and they come to me seeking advice. The first thing I would do, I'm very holistic and I use the mindset of root cause analysis. I ask lots of questions. And the intent is to unearth, to go down to the root cause of an issue. So I'll start by asking the person, number one, again, depending on the setting of where they're asking me, I would prefer to have a nice private conversation with this individual because I know I'm going to be asking a series of questions before I make any recommendations. So, number one, I'll ask, you know what, could we have a private time to chat or for a consultation or whatever? And then tell me more about this. Not why are you stressed, tell me more. And based on what they answer, I'll start targeting and narrowing down my questions that will guide any recommendation or guidance I'll give them. Because stress, don't get me wrong. Again, people may not know this. There are two kinds of stress. There's de-stress, the negative, and there's eustress. Eustress is the positive stress that might happen when, let's say, for example, a couple is expecting a baby. Planned. Unplanned might be a little bit unstressful, but it could still be positive. But eustress is the good kind of stress that happens as a result of something positive. So it could be for someone, oh, I can't wait to get that job, but I have to move. They're happy they have a job, but the stress of moving, but it's kind of like a you stress. I hope that makes sense, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the word
Yep.
stress, some people automatically think of it as negative, but no. My approach to answer your question is first and foremost, tell me about the stress.
Well, I greatly appreciate everything. I appreciate you joining us. You can be found, your two websites are shalomeagleswings.care. That's www.shalomeagleswings.care. And then you can also be found on www.renata.care. That's www.renata.care. You are found at your email address. Let me find that. Oh, and you can get your free gift on renata.care by just going to the free gift, recalibrate and relax. There's a place that you just download it. It's right there, PDF. Just download it to your computer, have it, use it, and live it, love it, and rejuvenate, recalibrate. So, and then you can always get your books when you buy them directly. You're going to get it personalized. She's going to sign it for you, and also donate 10% to who?
Hope Mission.
Hope Mission. Well, that's so wonderful that you're doing that. But you can get your books by visiting the website shalom eagleswings.com is where the book is located. So you can also email her at Cheryl at shalomeagleswings.care. That's Cheryl at shalomeagleswings.care. And your phone number, 403 837 9209. 403 837 9209. Is there anything else that you would like to get out to everybody?
Well, first and foremost, thank you very much for having me on this platform. I appreciate it. I am always eager to partner and support organizations that are interested in helping masses at large, you know? So thank you for that.
You're very
What
welcome.
else I want to share is basically I just want to leave people with something I like to say. I like to say that you are needed in this world to be a solution. Be the best that you can and do not rob the world of a precious gem. You. Goodbye.
That is so fitting for me right now because I am in the middle of writing a blog that's the exact same thing that you just said.
Interesting.
You are needed for to help others, and if you're not there, they're losing that resource. So what a wonderful, wonderful way to end. uh, Dr. Cheryl Okoli, thank you so very much for joining us. Please come back and join us sometime if there's anything that you can want to announce or you would like to share.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you again.